Republicans might finally have to answer for some of their grossest policy positions. So the Hill says, GOP plays defense on Obamacare's pre-existing conditions. Republicans in tough re-election races are scrambling to show that they support protections for people with pre-existing conditions in the face of a wave of Democratic attacks on the issue. But the argument they are making has been complicated by their party's repeated efforts to repeal Obamacare, as well as a lawsuit supported by the Trump administration that seeks to overturn protections under the law for people with pre-existing health conditions. Representative David Young, a Republican of Iowa, whose race the Cook Political Report rates as a toss-up, last week introduced a resolution co-sponsored by several other vulnerable GOP lawmakers expressing the opinion of the House that pre-existing condition protections should be maintained. In the Senate, Senator Dean Heller, the most endangered GOP Senate incumbent, added his name last month to a bill aiming to preserve pre-existing condition protections. President Trump himself sought to make the same argument at a rally for Heller in Nevada on Thursday night, saying Donald Trump and Republicans will protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Okay, no you won't, which is why your administration is currently involved in a lawsuit to try to get rid of the protections for pre-existing conditions. So, what's happening here? They're panicking and they're lying. They are lying to you. You need me to tell you the reality again? The Trump administration is engaged in a lawsuit to try to get rid of the protections for pre-existing conditions, and they tried the repeated efforts to repeal Obamacare, which would have gotten rid of the protections for pre-existing conditions. The bill they brought up, by the way, there were a few of them, but the bill they brought up, it didn't have the protections for pre-existing conditions. And then, I love this one because it's so sneaky. In Congress, in the House of Representatives, one Republican brought up a resolution, and listen to the wording because this is important. It expresses the, quote, opinion of the House that pre-existing conditions protection should be maintained. So that was not a bill to actually keep the pre-existing conditions protection. That was a bill that says, I just want everybody to know that it's my personal opinion that pre-existing conditions should be maintained. Well, I don't give a shit if you're saying this is your opinion and then you turn around and vote for a piece of legislation that effectively eliminates the protections. Because then what you are is a liar. You're two-faced. You're saying, see, I voted for to express the idea that pre-existing conditions protections are good. Yeah, but then you actually voted against the protections themselves on its own merit. So, I mean, this is lunacy. So they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to okay, we all agree this is a bad thing, right? Because we want to do the bidding of the for-profit health insurance companies, right? Yeah, we all agree it's a bad thing. Okay, but politically that's not feasible because we'll get our asses handed to us on a silver platter if we go down this road. So just lie. We all know Donald Trump, he's got no... I mean, all he does is lie. Every word out of his mouth is a fucking lie. So what does he do? Yeah, I'm at a rally. Okay, yeah, we want to protect pre-existing conditions. We want to protect people with pre-existing conditions. Turns out you don't, which is why you're involved in that lawsuit to try to get rid of the fucking protections. So, they're panicking, they're scrambling, they're lying, and the Democrats are actually capitalizing on this. And listen, we covered the story. Remember the ad of Senator Joe Manchin where he can't stop shooting things, and he shot the GOP lawsuit against pre-existing conditions protections? Well, I told you, I went into that ad thinking this is not going to be, because it didn't say what he was shooting in the headline. And I went into the ad thinking this is going to be so goofy and this is not going to work. But then when I was done watching the ad, I thought, that's actually smart politics because he's doing the hokey, hey, look at me, I'm West Virginia till I die thing because I'm shooting shit. But then it's also the thing he's shooting really should be shot, which is the idea that we need to get rid of the protections for pre-existing conditions. So that's actually smart politics on the part of Joe Manchin, which is not something you might ever hear me say ever again because he's the most corporate of the corporate Democrats. But this shows you there's a main point to get at here. And that point is this. When you go on the offense on issues where you know you're the overwhelmingly popular side, You are going to crush the competition. And this is something that Democrats never do. They never learn. And it's really fucking frustrating because the way in how vociferous they're being in protecting the idea of pre-existing conditions protections. They're really strong on that front. But they should be equally as strong on, for example, legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana, ending the drug war, ending the wars, a New Deal, a giant infrastructure project, Medicare for all, free college, living wage. But what you find is a lot of the corporate Democrats don't believe in those things, so they wouldn't fight for those things. But even the ones who do believe in those things are often tepid in their arguing in favor of those things, and they're walking on eggshells when they shouldn't. You do the opposite. You go on the offense. You don't stop going after your opponent and basically mocking them and saying, you're against Medicare for all? Wow, you're dumb. You don't want to save $2 trillion? You don't want to cover everybody in the country? You don't want to eliminate medical bankruptcies? You don't want to save the, anywhere from 35 to 45,000 people that die every year because they don't have access to basic health care? What is wrong with you? That's how you are. You go on the offense. That's how you argue. That's how you win. That's how you get elected. They're doing it on pre-existing conditions, and the Republicans are scrambling and panicking. But you should do it on all the issues. And guess what? Some of the issues, the Republicans don't even know that it's a trap. So the Republicans are still stupid and living in 1987, the elected officials, so what'll they do? If you argue for Medicare for all, they'll be like, oh, come to Papa. Go ahead, argue for Medicare for all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a government takeover of healthcare, and that's like bad. That'll be the stuff that they say as their counter argument. But that's nothing. That's fucking child's play. You could swat that argument away in your sleep. Be like, okay, every other developed country does have one version or another of single payer. So even if you did have a government takeover, that's kind of a good thing. You know what? The number one version of healthcare is in this country. It's ranked the highest compared to all the other ones. Medicare. You know what Medicare is? That's the government. So, you want to argue for the shittier version of healthcare that everybody hates? By all means, Republican douchebag. By all means. So this story shows you something. It really does. It shows you when you go on the offense, you win. Now, this is one of those issues where Democrats, they've fully digested the idea, rightly so, that, we have a winner of an issue here. They can't argue against protections for pre-existing conditions, because if they do, they will lose. What Democrats need to understand is virtually all of the left-wing issues are sure winners for you. But they don't, even the ones who agree with those policy positions don't think they should argue for it strongly. They're wrong about that. And then a lot of the Democrats are corporate Democrats, and they just don't believe in those policy positions. So they would never argue for it. But listen, bottom line is I'm showing these people the path to victory. It's just a matter of whether or not they take it. But at least as of right now, to go on the offense over pre-existing conditions, that's a good thing. But this also shows you something else about the system. And that thing is, look at how much they have to fight and they have to claw to try to just keep the gains we've already made. And that's the Democrats' big argument is like, let's not make it actively more shitty. But the current level of shittiness is fine. When the real argument should be, no, let's go in the right direction. But they're just saying, let's just not go back in the wrong direction. That says a lot about our system. How the Republicans are actively trying to take us in the wrong direction and then lying about it. And the Democrats are like, no, let's not go in the wrong direction. But don't be silly. Let's not go in the right direction because that's too far. That's the American political system in a nutshell.